Brain drain from Nigeria, popularly called Japa or Yoruba parlance, which simply means run or to flee, is the exodus of middle class and highly skilled Nigerians, which has been occurring since the late 1980s to early 1990s. This trend was initially restricted to certain professions but has now become free for all with the introduction of visa programs in order to fill workforce gaps in developed nations. Over the years, the transnational movement of medical doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and other medical healthcare associated personnel from Nigeria has grown beyond normal. This may be connected to poor job satisfaction, poor wages and remuneration, poor income, and quality of work life, among other factors expected from the government to provide to Nigerian medical professionals. The mass exodus of the professional healthcare workforce has become a cankerworm for a developing nation like Nigeria, and this worsens the already depleted healthcare systems in Nigeria. The 2018 National Opinion Poll (NOI) poll disclosed that 88% of Nigerian medical doctors sought better job placement overseas. Also, between 2015 and 2021, over 4,528 Nigerian professional doctors migrated to the United Kingdom. These statistics suggest that if developing countries like Nigeria can provide world-class education and training opportunities for career advancement and employment, the migratory flow could be reduced. On this edition of Tosin's Corner, we will be discussing the brain drain problem Nigeria is facing at the moment. And joining me to do this is the lead facilitator at Bella Principessa Limited, an emerging management consulting firm. She is an accredited management consultant with vast experience in strategic planning, marketing, relationship management, exceptional customer service, customer acquisition, retention, and the likes. She is Linda Chieze. Linda has a keen interest in wholesome youth development and ardently believes in the philosophy that everyone has the capacity to do better given the right attitude, knowledge, skills, and opportunity. Our heart for humanity can be seen through our selfless contributions to the betterment of society by organizing free capacity building trainings for schools, tricycle riders, popularly called Okada, voluntary education on detection, prevention and care of HIV/AIDS for low-income earners, outreaches to correctional centers, among others. Good to see you again, Linda, and thank you for joining me in my corner.
Thank you, Tosin. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. So, you work with business executives to identify organizational challenges and problems. Is this brain drain syndrome we're talking about? Is it a problem? And why do you think skilled workers, why do you think talented Nigerians are leaving Nigeria?
Well, thank you, Tosin, for bringing up this topic. It's a burning issue in Nigeria today. Of course, brain drain issue is a big problem in Nigeria. We train our professionals and skilled workers, middle-aged workers, who should contribute their youth in the development of our country, and then they leave us. They leave us, they get better offers abroad, and we are shortchanged here in Nigeria. It poses a serious threat to our development. For instance, in the health sector, most of our doctors study with the hope of practicing abroad. They don't study and hope to practice in Nigeria. For instance, there's a hospital that I use, and almost 10 of their medical doctors left in 6 months. So you can imagine the gap that leaves in the medical sector. So yes, of course, brain drain is a huge problem to Nigeria. It's something that should be looked into.
So what do you think as the consequences of such migration on our educational sector and health sector?
The consequences are huge to see. It causes a lot of workload on the medical professionals. For instance, a doctor who is supposed to attend to maybe 10 patients a day would have to deal with about 100 patients. And they are human beings. There's no way they can effectively attend to 100 patients as against 10 patients. And this consequence is seen in the fact that some patients die while waiting to get medical attention, And sometimes there have been cases where doctors give wrong prescriptions because they are human and they are genuinely tired. And sometimes when the issue is being referred to maybe their superiors, it shows that they were not even aware of what transpired in between. And again, to the educational sector, When the teachers leave, who trains the next generation? You find out that schools are forced to hiring people who are not professionally trained to be teachers. And we cannot close our eyes to the consequences of these issues to the medical sector and the educational sector in Nigeria.
So, what measures do you think should be put in place by the government to stem this out?
I think we should start by finding out the reason why these people are leaving. If they had security in Nigeria, some of them would leave. If the standard of living is fair enough in Nigeria, some of them would leave. If they have good working condition in Nigeria, some of them would leave. So what we can do to stem the tide is that the government should provide security. Some of these people leaving do not want to leave. They are forced to leave because maybe they have been victims of kidnap or their parents have been kidnapped, armed robbery, high cost of living, inflation, high cost of inflation rate in Nigeria. So there's a lot that the government needs to do because the individuals, it's not their responsibility to provide security. It's a government's issue. I feel that if the country is safe to a large extent, most of these people living will not leave. Most of them will want to be here. Some of them are patriotic, but they are afraid for their lives. The doctors work shifts. For instance, some of them have to come back late at night or leave very early. And then when the road is dark, that's when they get lynched, that's when they get kidnapped or attacked. So there's a lot for the government to do to make the country safe for the people to stay back and work here.
Also, a good working system too.
Yes.
Contribute a lot. I think that's one of the major reasons why a lot of persons, when you know that the future of the children are kind of bleak, they tend to, look the other way and, search for that which is missing.
Exactly.
So a high rate of immigration is alarming, is dangerous, and it's disturbing. I'd like to share this. Recently, my mom had an accident, some late last year, had an accident, and she was taken to a private hospital in Ibadan. And because of this brain drain thing we're talking about, she was referred from that private hospital to the teaching hospital, which is UCHJ, University Teaching Hospital. This particular day that she had that accident, due to this brain drain issue that we are discussing, mom was left unattended to for over 3 hours. I was calling and there was nothing I could do. And I wished that it happened in Abuja because I know a few private hospitals that maybe the case may be a little bit different. So it is a very, very huge problem that we have at hand. What can we do? What can we do? And the essence of holding programs like this is to offer solutions, to highlight solutions that can that the government or the people can put in place.
The truth is that a lot falls on the government. Yes, a lot falls on the government, and also the individuals have their own roles to play. Like the people in charge of these health facilities, I'm sure the health facility has like a medical director. There's a hierarchy of staff who work there who is to be held responsible for issues like this. Another thing I want to mention about this brain drain thing, especially relating to the health sector, is that most of the facilities are dilapidated.
Some are not even working.
That's the problem, So if a university teaching hospital like UCH doesn't have a functional X-ray facility, what is left to be said? I want to go back to the issue of dilapidation of health facilities. I visited a health facility, a primary healthcare center at Mpape in Abuja recently, and I just had a chat with the staff. A lot of them were volunteer staff, which is another issue. I didn't meet any medical professional on ground. I met about 4 people there, and they said they were just volunteers hoping to be converted to staff. None of them was a medical doctor or a nurse. So I asked them, when people come in sick, what do you do? They said just administer first aid. They told me they don't get support from government. Their fences were broken down. They don't have lights. The generator has been stolen because their fence is broken. And they told me that they cannot even store vaccines. And this primary healthcare center are set up to provide healthcare services for people living around that area, And then they made mention
that place has a very huge
population. Yes. And they mentioned about a woman who came to give birth the previous day, and there was no light. So they used the torchlight from their phones. So these are the issues. The primary healthcare centers, for instance, in this case, are under a ward. They are chairmen of every local government area. So who handles the funds? provided for these facilities. Let's even leave the brain drain, the people living.
Exactly.
Yes,
I
so
was coming
there are
to that.
people on ground who are also who are not doing what they should do.
Chijo,
As,
who are stealing equipment,
yes,
drugs that is meant for
exactly.
patients,
Every year, I believe governments there's budget for
for
health.
health. Exactly.
So why does it not trickle down to the people who need these things? Why would the healthcare facility be dilapidated for years? Even if the issue happened this year, there should be provision for it in the next budget. So if the children in this area now, this Zimbabwe area now, are supposed to access free vaccine provided by WHO through these primary healthcare centers, and they don't have light to present the vaccines, what happens to these children? I don't want to say it's only God that can help us, because God has given us a free will and an intellect to do what we should do as human beings.
And the resources.
Yes, to handle our resources, but the problem is as big as it is, both on the government side and on the side of the individuals.
Okay, so now talking about on the side of the individuals, let's talk about the lackadaisical approach of some healthcare workers. Some time ago, I was at an eye clinic, and the lady was a government, especially government hospitals, with no apology. So probably government should do something. Maybe there should be somebody monitoring them. So I walked into this eye clinic, and I needed to have my eye checked, and this lady was just on her phone and all that. And as I was standing there, I was losing my cool. That time I was still working with AIT. So the moment she looked up and saw my face that I work in a media house, she was like, "Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Tosi, I'm so sorry." So it was when she said I'm sorry, it didn't, it was not clear to me the reason for that apologies. But when she now said, "Tosi, I'm sorry," and how is she asked after one of my colleagues, and how is so person, "Sorry, we don't normally do this. I'm just blah 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 blah." And I was like, "Can you spare me all these explanations and all that?" And she attended to me. So you have to be somebody, that like a bicycle approach is another issue. What do you think about this? The way people, especially if they see that you don't matter, according to them, everybody matters, If they see that, oh, you are a nobody, you can't take them anywhere, and they can go away with it. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Even in schools, you see that people pay preferential attention to some persons than the other, depending on probably how rich they think you are. So, what do you think can also be done to this? Because if we're talking about brain drain, we're not talking about issues like this. It's not going to be fair.
Thank you so much. In fact, this question excites me. Like, I'm sure you noticed the smile on my
Exactly,
face. This is a burning issue for me as a person. I use a private hospital in Abuja. I won't call the name of the hospital. And I've had series of unpleasant experiences there. I had all my kids in that hospital. I used the hospital for my routine checks and all of that. And one common thing I've noticed is that when you come to the hospital as a normal person, you join the queue and all of that, like you rightly said, they treat you like you're a nuisance. Except to call a superior officer, maybe the owner of the hospital or a doctor in charge, and then they apologize. And I'm like,
so that's eye service.
Yes.
Even what I just explained is eye service. And
Exactly.
it's everywhere.
You don't have
Why
to
won't
know
you
me
fix
to
your
attend
work
to
and
me.
do
It's
your
your
work?
job. It's your job. And then I keep saying, healthcare is a job of empathy. If you don't have empathy, you shouldn't be working in a hospital.
You don't have a business.
You shouldn't be working. You should be, doing something else. Maybe be a lawyer. But don't work where people who need help come to, especially health care, And I tell them that somebody who is sick is already feeling low, he's already feeling defeated. The person is at his or her worst. So you should be able to help the person come out of that state and not making the person feel worse. I've had countless experiences concerning this. In fact, recently I went to this private hospital I'm talking about, and I was supposed to leave in an hour. I spent like 6 hours. This is one of the top hospitals here in Abuja. And I was just trying to control myself and say, okay, I'll soon be done and all of that. I got to the pharmacy. We were just three on the queue. She was talking to the person in front. I was next, and then there's someone behind me. And so she took a lot of time, attending to that lady. And then the lady left and she stood up and went in. So I thought she was going to maybe get a drug or something. After some time, I looked in and saw her taking off her lab coat and taking a bag. So I drew the attention of the girl. I said, "Is your colleague going home?" She said, "No, she can't be going home. I'm sure she's doing something." I said, "I'm seeing her leaving with the bag." And she said she can't. So she stood up, went. I don't know what that one told her. And she said, "Oh, She's gone. She said she's done for the day.
For the day. And the courtesy did not even demand for
She
her
just
to
walked
take.
away. She just walked, and I said, no, she can't be done.
Oh
Because
my
like I'm
God, we
looking
have a
at
long
her.
way to
And
go.
then so I made a little case, and then the superiors came out and all of that. And then she says she told the last person on the queue show. I said, you didn't talk to me.
As if
You
you are
didn't talk to me, you just
nobody.
walked away. So, these are the issues. I've had another instance where I was diagnosed of something, so I had to run further tests for it. So I went to do the test, and somehow I know where my prominent veins are. So the nurse was trying to use a vein, and I don't like needles to even start with. So she was trying to use a vein I felt was not prominent. So I said, please, can you just try here? She just flung my house and said, I should get out. So she just went berserk, literally. And I started crying because then they had worn me their hospital robe. It was even torn at the back. I was thoroughly embarrassed. I started crying and I left. I went to talk to someone that I know that I've worked there for a long time. I just said, I have to go see what happens. So she was trying to do sign for me, but I didn't get what she was saying. Apparently, the wife of the owner of the hospital was standing behind me, but I didn't know her. So she just overheard me crying and speaking to a staff. And that staff was trying not to tell me, oh, I should calm down so the woman won't hear. But I didn't understand what I didn't
They cover
know.
each other because they are birds of the same feather.
So I didn't even get the sanction. So the woman said, please, I should follow. I said, no, I don't want to follow you. So she insisted. And I followed her to a room. And then she had called all the head nurses, doctors, and all of that. And she asked me to recount my experience. And I told them, and she was so pained because that hospital, they had invested a lot. She was so pained. She said her pain is that I didn't even know her. I was just honestly crying out to somebody, And then she said, okay, I'm transferring this lady to the maternity ward. And the matron, they said, please don't bring her. Or she'll send away our patients, don't bring her. She called another department. I'm sending this lady. Said, don't bring her. She so the lady was like, so all of you know this lady has a problem.
Attitude, exactly. And you've been condoning it.
At the expense
of other people's
health, of the health of people and of the progress of the hospital. So I don't know what eventually happened, but like I have a lot of these experiences on my fingertips. So I keep saying, if you're not somebody that is sympathetic or empathetic, don't work in a medical field because you need a lot of emotions to do that job. You need to be able to make people, at least give them that psychological comfort. So we have a lot of issues. Aside the people leaving, some people staying are not even ready to work. I don't know if it's a cultural issue or a generational issue. I don't know what to call it, but the issue is very, very prominent now.
So that boils down to the issue of training because, I also have a number of experiences too. One, I'll just quickly brush through. One, I lost a friend at Royal Hospital, and in the process, while she was fighting for her dear life, the doctor, I think blood or something spilled on the doctor, and he was like, my shirt. And another doctor did the same thing to me. He was, attending to me, and he had spittle in his mouth, and I was like, you swallow that spit because I don't smell, those kind of things. So shouldn't what happens to our professionalism? I think a lot of these people need a lot of training.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
I was in labor, and you were attending to me as a doctor, and you have your mouth filled with saliva.
Wow.
Everybody and exactly something you're trying to do, and nobody forced you into this, and that's why parents are being advised that do not force your child into any profession. So I want to believe that on their own they chose that particular profession. So why can't they be professional for one? So that now takes us to the issue of training. Do you think Nigerian doctors, nurses, do you think they are getting enough training and the likes?
My answer is a capital no. And my reason is based on my personal experience. And I'm sure my case is not an isolated case. Like you also have your own experience.
Exactly.
Your mom had her own experience. I'm sure we all do. So it's not enough to just train to become a qualified medical doctor or a nurse. That's why there are training institutes. That's why people need to upgrade themselves. Every profession needs to be brushed up from time to time. So if you're a medical doctor, you know all the technical know-how as it pertains medicine. You need to work on yourself. You're not going to be dealing with animals or with ghosts. You deal with human beings. So you must be trained in the area of customer service, interpersonal relationship, emotional intelligence, You must be emotionally intelligent as a medical doctor, as a normal human being. Not to talk of someone who deals with people who are sick, you know. And in fact, sometimes I always ask these superiors in the hospital, maybe when they come to them, and I say, "Do you train your staff?" They say, "Oh yes." I say, "I can't see it. I've used this hospital for 13 years. I have the same experiences over time. We keep coming, we keep saying the same thing. At this same hospital, I've gone to the lab once, and the lady will laugh, say, "Ah, madam, I dey say chin and they say chin, will you buy?" Straight up, you don't know me, you don't know
Who you
I,
are,
you
if you
don't
are
know,
related
you
to
don't
the
know if
owner of
I'm
the
a mystery
hospital.
shopper. When we're in the bank, we have mystery shoppers. They come in, they have cameras on their bottom, on their glasses, on their biros. They're talking to you, they're recording. In fact, when they show yourself to you, you won't believe you're the one. You don't know me. So that means you don't even have to know me to do the right thing. These people, in my opinion, lack necessary training to handle human beings. I've also had a labor experience. I've been in labor in that same hospital, and I know a nurse who came, she almost slapped me, like slapped my leg when she felt I was stressed. In fact, when she said, "Madam, you're stressing me." And that was an it. She just came to work because that was around 5 p.m., 6 p.m. So she just took over her evening shift and she was really frustrated. So the reason why I say they need training is that when I joined the bank, where I worked for like 13 years, I didn't know much about customer service. So when customers come and they insult me, I'm tempted to say, what did I do? Like, I'm tempted to, my first impulse is to respond back. And then I look back and saw the older women that had worked for a while in the bank. They're always cool, calm, happy,
Collected.
And I'm like, why doesn't this thing move with people? They say, it's training. You just like yourself and say, whatever they're saying is not me they're telling. I'm here to serve them. So it's a mindset. And then I worked with First Bank. I must give them the credit. First Bank exposed us to lots of trainings. So I began to understand that this is a mindset thing. Like, if a customer even comes and says, this girl, why are you so slow? I'm so sorry, sir, I'm so sorry. Then you fake a smile. It's not real. But people say, oh, she's always
That's one
smiling.
thing the white have.
So I think the health sector have not invested in this kind of training for their staff. And again, where there are no consequences, you cannot measure actions really. If the consequence is that, if a patient comes and reports you and is verifiable, this is the consequence, most of them will be forced to do better because of the consequence. Because in the bank there were consequences. Until the health sector, even the educational sector,
All
the sectors apply consequences to this expression of responsibility, is not going to stop. The bankers are not magicians. People come to the bank and expect highest service and all that. It's because these people are trained and they are held responsible for their actions or inactions. So yeah, I think the medical sector should invest a lot in trainings and then put up consequences for actions.
There are consequences for action. Let people know that.
In the government institutions, it looks like it's a no man's job. That's the impression I get. People feel, they can't be sacked. They even tell you that it's not easy to sack somebody who works for the government. But in the private sector, you can be asked to go on the spot. But that shouldn't be. The fact that it's a government establishment should even make them to be more
So now you
serious.
now ask what happens to the conscience of the people. I mean, whatever is worth doing is worth doing them.
Yes.
You want to do this. And sometimes you see some of them and you're bemused, like, did anybody force you to take up this job? Anyway, it is Tosin's Corner and it continues in a moment. Just stay with us. All right, welcome back to Tosin's Corner. What is the way out of this brain drain problem that we have at the moment?
We have to start with the issue of insecurity, terrorism, armed robbery, bandits. It has to be addressed. Like I said before, most of the people living in the country, they don't want to leave. They are patriotic. And they are also looking out while they are there, hoping that things will be better in Nigeria so they can come back. Yes, yes. The standard of living just has to be improved upon. For instance, the issue of lights. The doctors, I'm sure themselves feel frustrated too when maybe they want to perform a surgery and there's no lights, they can't do it. It also impedes their ability to express themselves or fully practice what they've been taught. Yes, and their salaries just don't cut it. The issues are interwoven. Once the economy of the nation is better, I believe that most of our people abroad want to come back.
All right, so how does economic growth help address the issue of brain drain in the country?
Economic growth is directly, you know, concerned with the issue of brain drain. Like we mentioned before, the issue of social amenities is an economic issue. The working conditions of the people, they are all economic issues. So, and like for instance, in Nigeria, if a medical doctor is being paid, let's say, 500,000 naira in Nigeria of today, what would the 500,000 naira do for him? As pertains to rent, car, he has children, school fees, and all of that. So, but when the economy is working, these people can actually be here. I feel that they prefer to invest their technical know-how in their nation than to go abroad. No matter how much you're earning there, you're a second-class citizen.
Okay, all right. So there is a bill. I think the bill has scaled through second reading at the House of Representatives that any doctor who might have, gone through school here will have to at least practice for 5 years in Nigeria before moving, if they want to move to another country. What do you think about this bill?
I find this bill very funny for different reasons. Number one, because I didn't go to school on scholarship. They weren't schooled on scholarship. Their parents suffered it out to put them through school. Number two, they went to school through the hardest of situations and circumstances. Some of them read with torchlight, candle lights. I'm just trying to say that I can't really see the impact of the government in training these people. Yeah. So I don't understand why the government should tell them what to do.
With their life.
Yes, with their lives. If the government wants to keep them, the government should make it conducive.
Maybe you give them scholarship and you tell them for the next 5 years.
That's what I'm going to say. If the government gives them scholarship, then there will be basis for you to determine, they say he who pays the piper.
They take the tune.
Exactly. So you're not paying the piper here, you want to take the tune.
Exactly.
Some professional corporate organizations will train you, they'll send you on training abroad, and you will sign an understanding that you cannot leave for the next 5 years. That's understandable. Let's not also forget that for you to become a consultant, you must have worked for some years, gathered some experience, and then maybe done some courses. I'm just saying that first 5 years of their lives, they are like apprentices. They're just learning the job. So what you're saying is that they will practice what they have studied with us as apprentices or student doctors. And then when they are getting a grip of it, they can go.
That's the
I don't know if you
implication.
understand. Yes, that's the implication. So you are saying that they should come and use us to learn work first. Let's train them for the countries they are immigrating to. So after we have trained them, they can now go. For me, the bill should rather be, if you go after 10 years, you must come back or revoke your license or something like that. So let it be that they've gone to gather experiences from there, and then they come back with the expertise to help build the nation.
Before I let you go,
Okay.
another one is the then Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige. I don't know if you saw that story where he said doctors that want to flee the country, that want to Japa in quotes, can do so, that we have enough hands. It was shortly after then that we began to witness the mass exodus of people, leaving the country for greener pastures. What do you make of this statement?
That's an inhuman political statement. Why would you say we have enough hands? If they want to leave, they can leave. When you're truly sick, do you patronize these hospitals in Nigeria? So why don't you patronize the hospitals in Nigeria? If you feel you're in a good hand, why do you go abroad? So you can't tell me that it doesn't matter, so to speak, whether our doctors are here or not. It's a very insensitive statement to make, in my own opinion. And we all know that is a joke. And like rightly said, after the statement, doctors were like, okay, since we are not appreciated, let's go to where we are appreciated. And these guys are well appreciated abroad.
Okay, so lastly, what impact do you think this brain drain issue have on developed nations?
Of course, it's making their nations better. It's making their economy better. It's helping them to get better access to medical health. It's helping them in business, in every area. Since we don't appreciate what we have, these people scout for them, lure them with a better living condition, and they come and work for them, and they pay them what is enough to keep them comfortable and keep working to develop their nation.
All right, thank you so much, Linda,
It's a
for coming on the show.
pleasure.
Thank you for the words, the impactful words, and the advice, everything, everything. We just hope that one day and very soon, Nigeria will be better. And I also want to use this opportunity to add my voice to all that you have said, that Nigerians, anywhere you find yourself, any career path you choose, do it to the best of your ability. Give it your best. Give it your all. Nobody forced you into it. Nobody forced me into doing this. I am doing it because I love it. So wherever you find yourself, let's not always put the blame on the government.
Exactly.
What about you? What can you do for the country? What can you do for yourself? And it's on this note that I will say thank you for watching Tosin's Corner. And thank you once again, Linda, for coming.
Thank you for
Thank
having me
you.
today.
Yeah, see you next time for another interesting episode of Tosin's Corner.